Okay, so here we're going to solve systems of equations using a method called substitution. So we'll run through the process first, and then we'll do an example. So the first step of the process is to solve one of the equations for one of the variables. So I could solve the first equation for x, or I could solve it for y, or I could even use the second equation for x or y. Doesn't matter which equation you choose or which variable you choose here. However, sometimes solving for one variable is a bit more difficult than for another, so you will be looking for the easiest variable to solve for, and I'll run through how to think about that in a second. So step 2 is to substitute your result from step 1 into the other equation. It's important that you substitute it into the other equation. So if in step 1 I use the first equation, then in step 2 I'm going to substitute into the second equation, the other one. If I don't use the other equation and I substitute into the same one, I end up in basically a circular loop that I can't get out of and can't solve it for anything. So then step 3, what you're going to have at this point is one equation with one variable. You solve for that remaining variable. Okay? Then once you have that remaining variable, you're going to take the value that you find and substitute it into any of the equations to find the other variable. Okay? So we'll work through an example now using these steps. So here's my example. So 2x minus 4y equals 7, 4x plus y equals 5. So my first step, as you can see up here, is to solve one of the equations for one of the variables. Now, let's take the first equation. Let's say I'm going to solve this for x. Well, what I'm going to have to do, if I'm solving for x, is to get rid of this minus 4x. So I'd have to add get rid of the 4y. So I'd have to add 4y. And then to solve for x, I'd need to divide by 2. So when I divide by 2, I'm going to have to divide this 7 by 2, which doesn't give me a nice number. It's a fraction, right? 7 over 2. And then the 4 by the 2. Well, dividing 4 by 2 isn't so bad, but I'd rather not divide 7 by 2 if I don't have to. How about if I take the first equation and I solve it for y? Well, I'd end up having to divide by negative 4, right? Well, negative 4 doesn't go into 2, nor does it go into 7, so I would actually end up with 2 fractions there if I solve for y here, so I don't want to do that either. How about this one and I solve for x? Well, I'd have to divide by 4. Well, this is a 1. 1 divided by 4 is a fraction, and 5 divided by 4 is also a fraction. So I'd rather not do that either. But this here's a 1. This is 1y, right? So really, I wouldn't have to divide by anything. I would just need to get rid of this 4x, and then I would have y as an expression, wouldn't I? So what I will do is I will, in step 1, I will solve equation 2 for y. And that's pretty easy to do. I just have 4x plus y equals 5. So to solve for y, that means I need to get rid of the 4x that's next to it. So this is a positive 4x, so to get rid of it, I would subtract 4x from both sides of the equal sign. This cancels off, leaving me with y equals 5 minus 4x. Okay? Now I'm going to hold on to this. Now step 2 says that I substitute the result from step 1 into the other equation. So this equation here is the second equation. So I'm going to take this and you put it into the first equation now. So you'll see what I mean by that now. My first equation is 2x minus 4y equals 7. Well, this tells me what y is, so I'm going to take that and put it in place of y here. So I'm going to have 2x minus 4. My y expression goes in here. So 5 minus 4x goes in here. And then I finish it off with equals 7. So you see this is still 2x minus 4y equals 7. Okay? So now I've got one equation here with one variable. So step 3 says to solve for the remaining variable. Alright, so in solving for the missing variable, first thing I'm going to have to do is use my distributive property right here. Distribute that negative 4 to both things inside this bracket. So I end up with 2x. Negative 4 times 5 is a negative 20. Negative 4 times negative 4x is a positive 16x equals 7. So now what I would do is put my like terms together. I can see that I've got 2x plus 16x. So that's 18x minus 20 equals 7. So now I solve for x. So I need to get rid of the minus 20 here, the subtract 20. To get rid of subtraction, I would have to add 20 to both sides of the equal sign. That cancels off, leaving me with 18x equals 7 plus 20 is 27. So now, to solve for x, I would have to get rid of the 18 that's right here. Since this is multiplied by x, I would have to divide both sides by 18 to solve for x. So x would be equal to 27 over 18, which I can reduce because both of these values are divisible by 9, giving me 3 over 2. So my x is 3 over 2. Well, that's not it, because I've still got this fourth step here, which is to substitute my answer from step 3, which is the 3 over 2, into any equation to solve for the other variable, because I've solved for x at this stage, but I still don't know what y is. So what I could do is take this and plug it into either one of these equations where x is, or what I usually like to do is to take this intermediate equation that I made here and put the value that I just found into there. It saves me a little bit of time, that's all. So I'll take the y equals 5 minus 4x. I'm going to plug 3 over 2 in right here for x. Alright, so this would be 4 over 1 times 3 over 2. So 5 minus 4 times 3 is 12. 1 times 2 is 2. So this would be 5 minus 12 divided by 2 is 6. So this is really 5 minus 6. So y, in this case, comes out to be negative 1. So I've got y to be negative 1, and x is 3 over 2. So that's the solution to this system of equations.